I wanna get better.
Hi and welcome to this session. My name is Johan Lopez Helgesson. In this session, we're going to be talking about the various Adobe mobile apps, specifically Adobe Draws and the former Adobe Ideas, and how you combine your pen and paper skills and, to be honest, from my guest's perspective, only her index finger, how she works and the workflow around using those tools to come to this point where you export these or print them out as big posters, and these illustrations are really, really cool. I'm very inspired by your work, Fredrika.
Thank you.
Fredrika Stern, I should say, is a graphic designer. She works for a Stockholm-based B2B agency, and you started out as a freelancer, right?
I did. After studying graphic design at various schools and taking classes, I started working as a freelance graphic designer. And then I've been at a couple of agencies, and yeah, I'm currently at this agency. But I do draw and illustrate a lot on the side. Mm-hmm. That's always been a great hobby of mine.
Yeah, you've always been to visual things and
yes.
doing something visual.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about your workflow, and one thing that intrigues me is, can you tell us a bit more about how you came about to move your pen and paper skills, your drawing skills, over to the digital world, so to speak, over to the iPad? Well, how did you, can you give us a bit of a background into that?
There is actually a story behind that, quite funny story. It all started like a year and a half ago. It was February 2014. I was in this accident. I broke my leg in 5 places and my ankle, so I was bedridden for, let's say, 4 months. Okay. More or less 4 months. So I got really, really bored. Mm-hmm. I felt like I had read all the books that I could. I knew Netflix by heart. I didn't want to watch one more show, Mm-hmm. And I ran out of things to do. So I found my old sketchbook and I started drawing again. Yep. And by then, I hadn't drawn. I hadn't sketched in, let's say, 2 years. But then I just started again. But after a while, I felt like, I need more. I want to do something else. And
you stumbled across the various iPad apps, illustration apps, or
yes.
drawing apps
yes.
on the App Store. But what intrigues me is, just tell me about that process of, starting using your index finger.
Yeah.
It's very...
Sounds weird to most people. I mean, I was literally bedridden. Yeah. I was half laying down, half sitting up, so there was really no other way of doing it. I basically had my iPad like this on my chest, so it came natural to me to just draw with my finger, with my index finger. There was no space or table for any stylus tools, so that's how that happened. And I guess as I'm used to pen and paper, it came very natural to me to just draw with my hands.
Yeah. Speaking of pen and paper, when you, for example, started this illustration on a sketchbook and you transition over to the iPad, on the iPad, do you start from scratch? Can you show me how would you approach it from an iPad?
I do start from scratch. Yeah. I mainly use 2 apps. At first, I started using Adobe Ideas, and this is what it looks like. You see, this is my library of artboards for my illustrations. Then I transitioned and started using Adobe Draw. And this is basically how I do it. This is also a library of illustrations. Then I tap for a new project. And I mean...
This is the fun part, right? You basically have a blank canvas.
Yes.
And you were bedridden, you were bored. And you said, when we spoke at the outset, you said that you came up with an idea about an animal And speaking of animal, how come you started drawing with animals? As motifs.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah. The irony of it is that I'm not your typical animal lover. Yeah. I kind of don't like animals. I like them in print. But as you can see. Right now I only draw animals. Yeah. They can be living species or extincted species, like a dinosaur, or this one here is actually a fable animal, so it's a half hare, half woodgrouse. Yep. Doesn't exist, but what I'm interested in is the clash that occurs between the live, organic, natural shapes of a living creature, these animals, and the more stiff and rigid geometrical forms and graphic lines and shapes and patterns. Black and white patterns, mostly, as you can see. So I'm really looking to find that clash and to bring that out in my motives. Yeah.
I interrupted you when you were in Adobe Draw.
No
so just quickly, basically, just show me how you would approach something from scratch.
So first, I feel like I need to draw it by hand in my notepad. Yeah. But once I'm happy with whatever I drew, I know how to do it, or I feel like I know how to do it. Yeah. I go onto the iPad, I open Adobe Draw and I open a new project. I have this blank canvas here. And then, it's all about your personal style and what tools you like to use. But I can choose here between different pencils. This one is a favorite, it has a rounded tip. I choose color. I want it all black, and then I just work with sizes here, the size of the pencil stroke.
It goes,
up all the way. You could create a kind of
very organic.
Thick, right. And then with a double finger swipe, I just cancel, I erase whatever I just did. Or if I cancel and then I want to redo whatever I just erased, I go back again. So that's very simple. And what I really like about the iPad Adobe drawing apps is the fact that I can zoom in and zoom out on the canvas. This is something I can't do in real life on a notepad. This is like the format, and this is it. I can only do as much detail as I want, as I can, But here I can actually go further in and create these tiny, tiny dots, and then I can zoom out, and as you can see,
I see what you
it's
mean,
a really, really detailed little thing that I wasn't able to do the old school way.
What I think is fascinating is the fact that if you compare this drawing here from your sketchbook, Fredrika, right, and you compare it with this one, the one made on the iPad, if you look at all these the strokes here. In normal circumstances, if you do this in Illustrator, it would be very mathematical and very straight. But the fact that you were using Adobe Draw and you drew this, and it's so close to each other. That fascinates me a lot, because you see the fidelity hasn't been lost when you actually moved from one media, the printed or the pen and paper one, over to the digital one. And in conclusion, what I can conclude from this is the fact that it's not about the tools per se. It's actually about you as an artist, and the way you express yourself. And you found yourself now a means to do it, because, as you were saying, the reason why you were using your index finger was the fact that you came very close to the natural, organic shapes, right?
I think that's really why I do that, because I don't want to lose that feeling, and perhaps that's what's me in these drawings.
I'm just fascinated. It's really cool. So how would you call your style? I see here quite, high contrast and fine lines, and I know, I always want to label some artists that I follow, as I follow you on Instagram. But how would you categorize your style?
I'd say it's a very graphic style, black and white line drawings, even though I add some small color details from time to time. But I'm very inspired by tattoo art.
Okay.
I follow various tattoo artists.
I can see that, definitely.
Ink, exactly. I follow various tattoo artists on Instagram, and I also think this style is it's been trending for a while with line drawings, and that's why the Adobe apps are so perfect for this, because they vectorize your lines right away, and it makes it easy to create this kind of style.
Yeah. So it's speaking of the Adobe Draw and the vectorized part, the part from the mobile, and you have a style. And what would you do later? Would you save this?
Yes. So let's say I'm very happy with whatever I created here, and then I go here. Yeah. I go copy image to Creative Cloud, and this saves all my illustrations, all my work to my Creative Cloud account. But then if I know I'm going to finish up this illustration right now, I might as well import it to Illustrator. So it sends it right away, and then in desktop mode via the Creative Cloud account, I just find all my work in the Creative Cloud library in Illustrator. So it has directly imported whatever I did here, and I'm able to finalize it in a second in Illustrator. So that's a process I find very smooth. And I mean, before working the old school way, I mean, let's say years back, whenever I wanted to print something that I had drawn, I had to vectorize it in Illustrator. So I first had to take my motif, scan it, hope for a good scanner somewhere, and then, email it to me, open it up in Illustrator, live tracing the whole thing, and hope for the best results. Pulling up the contrast to get, make it easy, and hope for the best. So, I mean, that process is gone with these apps. They just vectorize whatever I do right away. And that's what I find so great and fascinating about it.
Cool. When you're working with your illustrations and you're sending over to the desktop, before you print them out, do you go through any kind of a process? Do you work, for example, with Behance?
I do have a Behance account. First, do you put any whips out there? I do. I like getting input and feedback from people. Not that I have that many followers, but I do have followers on Instagram, and that's where I post, let's say, screenshots from the interface of my iPad, or even a sketch from my notebook, or finished work. And I really like getting people's input or just encouragement as I go. I just like sharing what I do. And that's also how I got encouraged in the first place. When I was bedridden, starting this project, I wanted to sort of gauge what people think about my work. So I uploaded pictures, and then I received very positive response. So that spurred me to, go on.
Does the illustration that gets the most likes, is that the kind of illustration you would print, or how does it work in terms of deciding which one would you sell, which one you would put on your web shop? Or you should tell us about the fact that you sell them as well, right?
I do sell them. I just started selling them. So I have this Tigtail web shop, but then before I started that, it's mostly been like personal requests or an inquiry here or there from someone I kind of know through someone else. I just recently did this one drawing for my cousin's birthday. It's supposed to be here somewhere. Yeah, the elephants. So I mean, this is A3 now, but I draw this specifically for her because she loves elephants, and then I've added my style to it. And this one I've printed in 100 times 70. On matte fine art paper, so I care about paper.
That's cool. That's cool. But it's so cool because you've just went through the whole workflow. You've because of your accident, you were bedridden for such a long time, and the fact that you picked up the mobile devices and the mobile applications on these devices, you now have basically a 360 workflow. Coming from paper and having the pen and paper skills and the drawing skills, you brought it over here, and it comes back to here, or even the one that you're going to give your cousin. I find it very fascinating, and it is exactly why here at Adobe we do put out these mobile, we call them companion apps to the desktop applications like Illustrator and Photoshop. Well, Fredrika, I'm very, very happy to have had you as a guest here, and I'm very inspired. I'm very inspired of your work. As you know, I've been following your work on Instagram for a while, and I hope our viewers out there enjoy the session as much as I did. And also what we're going to do is we're going to see if we're going to put this content on our Adobe Nordic blog, where we inspire people about everything creative and so on. So people can follow your work and find some more inspiration from there.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And to you guys, thank you for watching. See you next time.